At the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, the boyfriend of a woman who accused Jeffrey Epstein of sexual assault took the stand. The man went by Sean. His girlfriend Carolyn testified earlier this week that she often went to Epstein's house to give sexualized massages. Sean testified that he in fact drove her there, as well as a couple of other underage girls. A prosecutor said Carolyn was just 14 when this started, and Epstein was indicted on federal sex trafficking charges in 2019, but died in prison, and Maxwell is charged as his co-conspirator.
Closing arguments wrapped up, and the jury is now deliberating in the Jussie Smollett trial. The actor is charged with 6 counts of disorderly conduct. He's accused of orchestrating a fake attack or hate crime against him, which he denies and says was legitimate.
Well, one person is dead after a car gets trapped in rapids at the top of Niagara Falls. Witnesses say they saw the partially submerged car floating down the river, and it became hung up on some rocks just ahead of the brink of the falls. First responders soon arrived on the scene while waiting for a Coast Guard helicopter to arrive. A drone was used to try and get a better view of how many people were inside of the vehicle and to identify the car's license plate. Once a Coast Guard helicopter arrived, a pilot was lowered down to the car and was able to pull the deceased driver from the vehicle. The driver is described as a woman in her 60s, and it is not clear how the car got into Niagara Falls, and an investigation is underway.
President Joe Biden has signed an executive order to make the U.S. government carbon neutral by 2050. The president is aiming to leverage the federal government's massive buying power to jumpstart the market for clean energy, electric vehicles, and more efficient buildings. In the executive order signed today, President Biden set new goals for the government to cut its carbon dioxide emissions by 65% by the end of the decade and to zero out federal emissions by 2050. The order also establishes a Buy Clean policy directing the federal government to use lower emissions construction materials, and it calls for the government to use 100% clean electricity by 2030. The White House says the order will reduce emissions across federal operations, invest in American clean energy industries and manufacturing, and create clean, healthy, and resilient communities.
The Senate has passed a resolution to appeal the president's COVID-19 vaccination mandate for private sector employers. The measure which needed only a simple majority to advance, passed in a 52-48 vote. And the bipartisan rebuke of the White House's COVID-19 strategy is mostly symbolic. It's unlikely to pass in the Democratic-controlled House, and even if it did, the bill would face a Biden veto.
Protecting kids online is front and center once again for the senators on Capitol Hill. Members from both parties grilled Instagram CEO on the negative effects of social media platform can have on teens. Instagram's leader outlined new tools to protect young users, but stirred more controversy by not backing away from a plan to tailor a version of the app towards kids. NBC's Alice Barr reports from Washington.
Too little, too late.
A tense first appearance before Congress for Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri.
You better tell the truth. You're under oath.
In the hot seat after a whistleblower leaked documents showing the social media platform knows it can be harmful to teens.
Social media and fan those flames and fuel the fires of the mental health crisis that we face among teens.
The U.S. Surgeon General this week issuing a rare public health advisory warning of a youth mental health crisis during the pandemic and calling on social media companies to counter the damage some users report.
It definitely makes everyone, and especially girls, feel bad about themselves, especially when there's such an unattainable beauty standard.
Ahead of Wednesday's Senate hearing, Instagram announced new controls for young users, including encouraging them to take breaks and starting this spring, letting parents see how long their teens spend on the app and set limits. The company also calling for federal regulation.
We believe in more transparency and accountability, and we believe in more control.
Senator Mike Lee said his staff created a fake account for a 13-year-old girl and said Instagram suggested inappropriate content.
After we followed a famous female celebrity, it changed and it went dark fast.
If we recommended something that we shouldn't have, I'm accountable for that.
While promising to do better, Mosseri said he would not stop developing a kids version of Instagram, insisting it's more responsible to offer an age-appropriate option. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.